Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 20th, 2025 I think it's the 20th, at approximately 8 p.m. PST. I've made it my life's journey to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I personally use to guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know that these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, let me see where we are here. Again, I'm working on a very small screen. Let's shut off. Okay. Now, to be clear, okay, I'm working on a very small screen, so it's very important. If you've got a question, please put it all in all caps so I can actually find it. Now, to start with, before we get underway, go all the way to the top here. We have Eternity Eternal. You are in with the gold. How you doing, Eternity? Glad to see you. And then we have Rachel Andrews Flick is in the house with the silver. How's it going, Rachel? And yes, I have been getting your messages. The reality is my life's been a little hectic. My wife is now living here. I went down, spent the day at the airport, and then doing a little bit of running around to get her set up. So she is now here. I don't have to go looking for her anymore. Now, then we go down here, and what do we got? Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Chad is one of our moderators that is showing up more and more, thankfully. And Chad, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there, we've put some boundaries in that we're not waiting for problems to evolve. If we spot them, they're just going. But tomorrow, we're going to go into that in depth. Today, we are literally looking at the reptilian phenomenon. Now, we have in with the bronze. We have, I believe that is Joanne. And if I'm misreading that, pardon my eyesight and the very small print that I'm working with. How you doing, Joanne? Uh-oh. I might not be able to watch now, but okay. Well, I'm glad to see you pop in here. Now, let's get on with the reality of this. I think that brings me to the bottom. Yeah. Now here, I really do appreciate your guys' effort to come in and support me and spend the time here. You have no idea how much that means. But let's go back to reptilians. Now, here's the catch to it. I can get this all the time from people. Oh, reptilians are this way, reptilians are that way, etc. Now, the reason I said that I called this Meet the Reptilians, I am in the middle of writing a small book. It is pulled out of the Races of the World volumes. Now, to be clear, there are 15 different reptilian races. Okay, that I've pinned down. There might be more, I don't know yet. But there's 15 of them caught between two volumes. Now, I call them reptilian because, well, they look like reptiles on Earth. That's all it's got to do with. Anything from a gecko to a snake to a lizard, okay, these are all reptilian. But here's where the kicker comes in. Okay, so many people go, oh, the reptilians are this way. All reptilians, number one, are not the same species. Okay, some are evolved on Earth. Okay, as a matter of fact, I've got a number that are listed that live in what you call inner Earth or hollow Earth that evolved from dinosaurs. Okay, now, I will be posting a short version of this. As a matter of fact, I got fine. I didn't actually put it together where I wanted it. Of course not. Of course, I forgot to get that organized. Anyway, I will be posting after the show, I will be posting a truncated list of the different reptilians I know of. Okay, as in, here's the name, here's what they were evolved from, and here's who they're related to. Okay, now the one thing in common, number one, reptilians on the whole are not cold-blooded. Renee, you are in with honorable mention. How you doing? Glad you could join us. Most reptilians are warm-blooded. Okay, in other words, they do not get really tired when it gets cold. They eat more. And you really don't want to deal with them. Not when they're grumpy. But when we take a look at them, okay, they all look reptilian, scaled, either scaly or leather type skin. Okay, some look like normal reptilians. But let's get a little specific, shall we? Most, I'm thinking probably, and it's just a guess at this point, but I'm suspecting about half the reptilians I've got listed are off-worlders. Okay, the other half are either ancient races or, as in they evolved from dinosaurs or other things, or they simply live on Earth and evolved here. Okay, now, how did reptilians on the whole get this whole mess, this whole thing of, oh, they're infiltrating the government, they're becoming, they've replaced the queen, the queen mother, in England. Now, here's the thing. That all stems from, and you'll love this, if you're my age, you'll remember, theoretically, back between 1977 and 1982, there was a series out and a movie called V. Okay, and it literally meant visitor. And in that movie, and remember, it was science fiction. Okay, with it being science fiction, great show. I used to watch it, regularly. Okay, but that is where the idea, they came in, they infiltrated the government. Reptilians don't infiltrate the government. Okay, our governments have enough trouble. They don't need the reptilians dealing with it. Okay, so if you take a look at that, now here's the thing. In V, and I'm going to have to turn to one of you guys because I don't recall. But in the movie V, I don't recall if the reptilians had 4 fingers or 5, as in 4 fingers and a thumb, or 3 and a thumb. Okay, I don't recall, and I haven't seen it in, 40 years. Okay, so when you take a look at that, most reptilians have 3 fingers and an opposable thumb. Okay, most of them have talons, and this is not good for shaking hands. They'll tear your hand off by accident. But the reptilians on the whole, most of them are carnivorous. Okay, when you take a look at the Zotar, which if you take a look at, there's a commercial out for TELUS and for TELUS, the telephone company. They use a gecko. You want to get a good picture of a Zotar? There's a Zotar. And you'll notice they've got suction cups on their fingers, not claws. Okay. But the Zotar, they are still carnivorous. They just happen to eat insects and small rodents for the most part. Okay. But when you take a look at most of them, most are carnivorous. Okay. Now, I believe it was the Pteronar, and let me just take a look. I've actually got the book up on screen here. Where are we? Just looking for, is that, yeah, sure. Can't read that. Whoop, you go all the way down here. Okay, where did they evolve from? There we go. Blow that up a little. Okay. No, it wasn't the Pterodon. It was the Seacos. Now, the Seacos evolved from the Psittacosaurus. They are a carnivore. Okay. But you got to remember, the fact they're carnivorous does not mean that they're going to kill everything they see. They evolved here, so they've got their own set of rules that is not governed by, it's not governed by the consortium. Most of these reptilians, okay, when I look at them, most of them have 3 fingers and an opposable thumb. Most of them have claws or talons. Okay, there are some that do not. You take a look at the Chitauri, the only reptilian race I know of, okay, that I've come across, that actually has 4 fingers. Well, sort of. I actually can't make 4 fingers with that hand or with the other one. But they've got 4 fingers and a thumb, just like humans. Okay, Cowie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, the Chitauri evolved on Earth at the end of the dinosaur age. Okay, very much hand in hand with with humans. Okay, the thing was, the humans were more aggressive, were much more prolific where it came to reproduction. Okay, something to do with the fact that the Chitauri, when they were in their infancy, when the race was in its infancy, still had a tendency of eating its own kids. Doesn't do that anymore. But let's face it, humans have a much greater grip on the surface control. But the Chitauri are centered in Africa. And yeah, go ahead and look for them. Good luck with that. Okay, I mean, you think about it. Humans looked for decades, if not centuries, to find elephant graveyards. Okay, now elephants, when they die, they leave a big skeleton. Chitauri, when they die, don't even leave bone fragments, because part of their ecology is, like most reptilians, when their elders die, as long as they die of disease, they are consumed, or die of natural causes, not disease, they are consumed. Okay, if they're diseased, they're cooked thoroughly and then consumed. Cooked, cured, you name it. Okay, yes, that means most reptilians are cannibalistic. Okay, and for that matter, carrion eaters. Humans don't do that, which I'm quite grateful for personally. But the Chitauri are centered over in Africa. No, there are not enough of them to worry about. Okay, you can if you'd like. There's no problem. Okay, and bear in mind, every one of these species happens to have a neat little glitch. Okay, every one of them has this idea that they're not interested in conquering Earth. Okay, they really aren't. Now, let's take a look at the big ones. Now, you guys have seen the big, well, some of you have seen a great big cylindrical ship. Okay, now I've seen 3 different types. Okay, you've got the big cylindrical ships, they look like a cigar. The ones that have no windows, okay, those belong to the pureblood Pleiadians. You'll never find a pureblood Pleiadian walking around on Earth. Okay, they die. The atmosphere is toxic to them. Okay, now one of the other things you got to remember when you take a look at these cylindrical ships, you see the ones with 2 banks of windows. Those belong to the Strazazians. Okay, 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians. Okay, they grow their own armor and they are born understanding respect. Then you've got the Sarkon. Okay, I believe the Sarkon have We got the Tormodon. No. I got to take a look at the Sarkon. You've got the Sarkon. Okay. Again, these guys are 12 to 15 feet tall. Rest assured, you see a Sarkon, you're going to know it. Okay. And it's not just one of these things of, oh, I saw one in passing. Okay. Then we've got the Tormodon. Now, Tormodon, they don't have an actual ship of their own because they use whatever one they can commandeer. Translation, they kill the occupant and take the ship. Or they steal the ship, or they buy the ship. There's any number of ways, but you got to remember, Tormodon are a race that will do whatever they choose based on what they're getting paid. They are true, they are true privateers. Okay, they're very materialistic. They will get whatever they can get paid for. Okay. Now, one of the nice little parts about it is we take a look at the chameleons. Now, the chameleons are another species that have been around for a very long time. And I should double check that just so I don't actually give you the wrong information. Let us take a look and go up to the chameleons. Where are we? Yeah, I got to do it the hard way. And of course, it's going to be a pain in the neck. Tormodon ship. What do they got for a ship here? I've got to go through and edit this whole thing. But when you take a look at it, now, here's the thing. The biggest connection that we've got here. The Sarkon, okay, yes, I realize I'm throwing a lot of names out there. And to me, this is just plain normal. Okay, when we take a look at the Sarkon, number one, like I said, they're 12 to 15 feet tall when they're adults. They expanded their empire too quickly, and at some point, literally hundreds of thousands of years ago, they had to cut off their outside people. So what they did was the outside and the outer rims, they spent a year of local time and went, we cannot continue to support you. So we're going to drop off all the technology, all the gear we can over the course of the year, and we'll bring out the people, anybody that wants to go out there and live in the frontier world. We'll get you set up, get your government set up. The Sarkon left, when they cut the connections, they left behind the Tormodon, the chameleon, and the Strazazian. 3 totally different branches, all evolved on their own, without the Sarkon overseeing. Okay, but they're all related. Cousins, if you will, I would suspect would be the relation. All of them, like virtually every reptilian, lays eggs. Most of them raise them in a hatchery. Okay, there are very few that are actually. Adam, how are we? Glad you could join us. I have not seen you around in a while, but I am glad to see you're back. Most of the reptilians, they lay eggs. And what it is the eggs get laid, and in most cases, they get moved to a hatchery where they are turned by the younger ones, and then there's various different chains of event. Okay, but the Sarkon left being, now the Sarkon are absolutely a dominant race. Now, aside from looking down on people because they're 12 to 15 feet tall, okay, they do see themselves as being leaders. They don't want to conquer anything. They just want to control everything after it's been conquered. This doesn't work well in most cases. But considering the fact they have joined the consortium, you don't really have to worry about that too much. But here's where things got diversified. The Strazazians evolved, okay, they ended up developing extreme honor. Okay, they're born knowing what it is. Thanks so much, Sir Adam. I appreciate that. So they are born, and there's no way of telling who the parents are without doing a DNA test, because all eggs are moved to the hatchery. The young ones, the ones that are already hatched, the moment a young Strazazian breaks an egg, makes that first crack, you've seen it done potentially with chickens, where they have to break their way out. Well, in the Strazazian's case, they make that first crack and then they cry for help. Other young Strazazians will come and help open the egg up, okay, and get the kids out. Now, all of the little ones stay in the nursery until they're big enough to either of their own accord or with the help of others inside the nursery to get out to the next level. Okay, now you're looking at it going, well, how can you end up with any of them staying behind? Not all Strazazians grow to be 7.5 feet tall. Some, like humans, they're stunted in their growth, and they end up never being able to climb out of the nursery. But they still stay in there because by running around in there, they roll the eggs over. Okay, now, then we take a look at the chameleons. Now, chameleons are a wonderful setup, okay, because the moment they're born, okay, they turn around and the young ones that are out and about will try and eat the other eggs. So the young Tormenon will catch a newborn baby, pick it up and set it on the other side to be raised over there, so the eggs will continue to grow. Okay, now, and the newborns will break the other eggs. Then we have that neat little problem where you have my apologies, I screwed that up badly. The chameleons will eat each other. The Tormenon are an interesting setup. Okay, and they too are raised in a nursery. And this is why I've broken it down and why I'm putting a book together that only focuses on reptilians. Okay, now if you take a look at the other races that are available, you take a look at those four are connected. Then we take a look at the Teklek. Now, somewhere on the internet I saw it. There is literally a video, somebody caught it somewhere on the net, where it shows these two reptilians running through the sewers in New York. Those are Teklek. Okay, little 3.5 to 5 to 4.5 foot long, well, 4.5 to 5.5 foot long, 3.5 feet tall, raptor-like reptilians. Now, those guys are literally at war with their Strazazians. Okay, mind you, they also have a little bit of a civil war going on. Didn't want to breathe anyway. Now, I can't tell you the names right off the bat, off the top of my head, and this is why I got to go through, and I will post them after we get done the show, just in point form, okay? But I do know, in my notes, I have the evolutionary path of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, we all know that the T-Rex, science has proven, it also became the chicken, okay? And I got no problem with that. However, that's not the only evolutionary road. Okay, but the T-Rex evolved on one line. The Sycosaurus, which is the predecessor, I believe, to the Dimetrodon and the Edaphosaurus, also evolved as another sentient species. The Pachycephalosaurus. That's the one with the built-in battering ram on their head. I don't know how many of you guys are budding paleontologists, but these are the different dinosaurs that evolved beyond just being a dinosaur. And for those of you that are about to ask, yes, they still exist in what you call inner or hollow earth. Okay, now, there are a number of others. There is absolutely, I should really look at that. Didn't quite have the time with everything going on. Let me see here. If we scroll up through here, what have we got? Now, some of these races I've got pictures for. You'll be getting them pretty quick. Okay. Oh, yeah. Now, the Rarcaw, that is a race that evolved from the T-Rex. And by the way, the Ararahar and the Arara are what you would know as dragons, or what some people know as wyverns. Okay, two-legged and four-legged reptiles. Then we scroll down here, and we have the Naga. Now, the Naga are a snake-like race that happens to have arms. Their body is just the tail. Okay, but they're also constrictors. This is not good when you hand them a weapon. Okay, and we've covered those ones. We scroll down a little further here, and that's the Tormodon. Then we have the Teklik, which are a real wonderful group of people. The Zotar, these are the guys that look like geckos. And by the way, yes, they've got ships, but they couldn't build their own. So the Zotar had ships built for them. But here's the kicker. The only Zotar that will ever fly a ship are no taller than 3 inches. Okay. Has something to do with the fact that they can't fit in the ship. Oh, that's why I've got to turn those around, because they pulled them out. And we have, what is that? That's the Prochynon. And where did they come from? Of course. Oh, yeah. That's the Cenosaurus. The Silicon are a wonderful group of people. Okay. And we have, of course, some of you know of the Quaddle out of Mexico. Or out of Mexico and Central America. They are real. The funny part about it is they are a winged reptile. Okay. By the way, the Chameleon and the Tormodon, sorry, that's right. The Chameleon and Tormodon and, well, all 4 of them. The larger ones have wings. Now, you think about it. You take a 7.5, 8.5 foot reptilian, armored, capable of flight, and when you take a look at the Sphyrosians, they grew up on a high G planet. They grow their own armor. This is why I say you can't just look at reptilians and go, this is what you're dealing with. Now, somebody out there is going to be going, well, where did you get all this information? How do we know it's real? And I got it from going all over the world. Okay, from many past lives, and from running into a bunch of them this lifetime. How do I prove it? I don't. I really don't. I do know that some people I've talked to have corroborated their existence, and I'm not telling you where they are, so let's not ask. Okay? I'm not telling you. But they have, some people have said, this is where I've seen them. Okay? I will tell you, some of the reptilians have been seen in northern Canada. Some have been seen in the southern states. And of course, as we've already seen, they're also spread out into Africa, and you're going to love this one, down in Antarctica as well. Okay, so we are looking at a very wide array of people. Okay. What have we got here? Just scrolling back to make sure I didn't miss anything. Now, again, from that standpoint, this is why I say reptilians are a wide array. Now, I did a quick count before I came on air, and I think I've got 15 or maybe 18 different reptilian races already documented. Okay. And effective tomorrow, now that I've got everything settled, now that my wife is here and I've got a few things organized, now we go into heavy production and get things finished and printed. Talk about delay after delay. The thing you got to remember with reptilians, okay, humans, people die, and it's like, let's have a ceremony. Let's remember the people that are dead. Here's the average way the reptilians hold a funeral. And this is assuming they die of old age or they die of an accident, not of illness. It's like you're sitting there having dinner and, you keep pushing your limits. Grandpa drops dead, okay, at the dinner table. And the kid looks at him and goes, Grandpa, I really appreciate everything you did for me, over the years. Grabs the carcass, throws it on the dinner table, dinner served. You got to remember, these guys are carnivores. They're also cannibalistic, by the way. Now, that sounds really cold, really gross. Okay, some of them, because of the fact that they do interact with other races, they'll do the same thing. But if they've got a different race at the table that doesn't eat raw meat, there is a specific spit they use, and they go, okay, that one's dead, put him on the barbie. Okay, so that they can be consumed. To be consumed in dinner is, in their eyes, the right way to do things. It doesn't waste the body. It doesn't waste the food source. And considering most of them have a lot of fun trying to actually survive because of food source or because of food supply, it becomes an interesting problem. Whoops. Are most of them... okay. Rachel is asking, are most of the reptilians aggressive? Absolutely. The only ones that are not aggressive are the ones that are actually herbivores. Even the Zotar, which they are carnivorous, they are aggressive, but you got to remember, they're aggressive to insects and small rodents. Somebody that's only 6 inches tall is not going to attack a human without absolute necessity. Now, are they capable of defending themselves? Certainly. But most of them are very aggressive and, quite frankly, rather territorial. But here's the kicker. Most of them are run by a combination matriarchal, patriarchal society. The patriarchal side of it is the protective detail, the military. Okay, they're the ones that stand there and defend their people. When you're looking at socioeconomic evolution, that falls under and the education falls under the realm of the matriarch laying it out and going, this is what we're doing. Okay, but they are very capable of defending themselves. Now, I know there is, the Grun are not reptilian, but I've got to find the notes on it. I do know that there is one other race I came across recently. They are non-aggressive unless you attack them. Okay, but they evolved from the Triceratops. Okay, and they are, to say the least, a nasty group of people if they have to get defensive. Kind of like the Cape Buffalo. Okay, but you got to remember, they are aggressive. They are not conquering minded on the whole. Now, any of the off-worlders that are here because they are members of the consortium and have agreed not to create a problem. Not a problem at all, Rachel. The reality is, I like it when people, and just a reminder, guys, if you've got a question, definitely put it in all caps. It makes it easier for me to spot it. Okay, I do my best, but my eyesight is not what I'd like it to be. Okay, but we are evolving on the technological side of things. Now, something you got to remember: there are reptilians that will run away. The one group you don't want, they'll run and hope you chase them. You ever get the opportunity to chase the Teclac, cast the opportunity aside. They're leading you into an ambush. Okay, and they will quite readily outrun you and let you catch up. Because what they'll do is they'll run ahead and stop and let you catch up to give you that idea of, oh, I'm going to catch them. And they are masters at feigning injury. This is a bad setup. Okay, at least from your guys' end. The other thing you got to remember with the Teclac is if you catch one on its own, they're masters at an ambush. You catch a collection party, these guys have technology that will make your blood literally run cold. Okay, they've got a really neat weapon that they got their hands on. I don't honestly know where it was where they got it from. I think I've got it in Races of the World. It's something that is literally a coagulator. They hit your body with a frequency, and it immediately causes all of the blood cells in your body to harden. You can picture how healthy that is for you. Okay, but you take a look at, for instance, the race that evolved from the Pachycephalosaurus. These guys are not aggressive per se until they feel threatened. And they can quite literally, if they get up enough speed, they will take a normal tank and they'll cave the side in as they roll it over. Okay. You don't want to deal with the thing is, humans keep going, we'll fight everybody off, we'll be able to defend ourselves. These are Terran evolved. Okay. And they are racing, these are species that are absolutely problematic if you think you're going to match them in a fight. Bear in mind, they don't have that neat little thing. They don't have that neat little idea that, oh, there's rules in war. We got to make sure that it's all even. Okay. As you can well imagine, when you're dealing with a race that's only 6 inches tall, okay, you're looking at a race that will gang up on you. Okay. But are you ever likely to see them try and merge with mankind? I would not hold my breath. Okay. And by the way, if you ever run into somebody that tells you that they are, you can run into a hybrid Strazazian, Tormenon, Kamalian. Certainly. You'll never run into a hybrid Zotar. Okay. And you certainly won't run into a hybrid Teclac. And here's why you won't with the Teclac. The Teclac will eat you. They may well try and mate with you, but they will eat you. Which means the mating procedure is pretty much a useless thing. Great distraction, but now most of the I've got pictures of about half the reptilians. Okay, but you gotta remember the other half is in volume 2. So I will be working on those pretty quick. Okay, I'm starting to put the money aside for them now because I've got all the races. All I got to do is run through, and that is going to be a critical priority now. Now that everything's settled down here, we can start moving on things. Okay, now Other than that, the other thing you got to remember with reptilians is we got to let go of the idea that any of them are here to conquer Earth, okay, or to enslave mankind. Not a one of them, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, the Tormodon will quite readily kidnap a human, okay? They will quite readily kidnap one and sell it. Absolutely. Okay? The neat part with the Tormodon is they'll capture a fern, and if they can find somebody to buy it, they'll sell it. And I do mean that fern, the fine little green plant kind of sits in a pot and just kind of grows. Usually they grow wild. But Tormodon will sell anything that they can make money on. Okay? And therefore, yes, they are the ones that are most likely to capture a human and sell it to an off-world zoo. Yes, that does happen. Sad to say, more often than not, they get sold to a delicatessen. Okay, as I've mentioned in the past, the Teklek have a brilliant idea. They needed support, and they analyzed Earth, realized Earth had all the minerals they could have possibly wanted. So they came here with the intention of strip mining the planet. The catch was, when they got here, not only did they find humans already occupied it, but they discovered that humans tasted nice. It became a delicacy. Now, we do have a saving grace here, because somebody out there is going to be going, well, do we have any allies amongst them? The Strazazian have been at war with the Teklek for literally millennia. Well, in fairness, hundreds of millennia. Okay, we are not looking at the war coming to an end anytime soon. So when we talk about humans going the war that end all wars, 6 years, it was a horrendous war, don't get me wrong. But it's nothing compared to 100,000 years of war. Okay, and yeah, the only way that happens is if you produce enough people. But the Teklek, the Strazazians found out the Teklek were en route. They got here first. The Strazazians do have an alliance with the humans. But, what do we got here? Robert, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, Robert goes human with A1 sauce. Yummy. I don't know about the A1 sauce thing, but yeah, the reality, and we're not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, but you got to realize reptilians on the whole are carnivorous. Okay, meaning they're not only carnivorous, they are carnivorous, cannibalistic, and carrion eaters on the whole. But that does not mean they're all related to each other. Okay, I just want to scroll up here and see if I missed any questions. And not by the look of it. Although we do have 10 in the room right now, which I am certainly not complaining about. We've been looking at doing a little bit of revamp, but I'll get to that tomorrow. But where it comes to the reptilians, okay, many of them are very much caught up in their own, because they are very, very structured. Humans are scattered. Okay, it's just that simple. Thank you very much, Storm. I appreciate that. I was just looking at my clock above. And here's how much of a dinosaur I am, guys. That's an analog clock I've got up above me. Okay, most of you my age can still read analog. Many people half my age don't even know what an analog is. Or at least so it would seem. But when we take a look at the reptilians, understand we are not talking about one species. We're looking at something close to 15. And probably more. Let me see here. Just making a note to make sure I do this. Okay. Just made a note for myself to make sure that before I go to bed tonight, I list off the number of races that I've got and where they evolved from. Okay, I'm thinking where they evolved from, who they are, and what humans know them as, and much more importantly, if they are connected as in genetically connected, or are they in conflict with a given race, or are they allied with a given race? Okay, and I've been asked by a number of people if I prefer them. The answer is no. I've got some really good friends in very different worlds. Okay, but do I have a preference, one species to another? No, I'm pretty cut and dried. If you're honest with me, you treat me properly, then we're in good shape. You don't, probably not in good shape. I like coffee. You guys already know that. One of the things you got to remember with many reptilians, okay, when I talk about them drinking blood wine, every species out there has their own version of alcohol, of drugs, of whatever. Most reptilians do tend to evolve, do tend to develop an alcohol based on blood. Okay, and there is a reason for that. They like it. Okay, how's that for a reason? Now, the other major similarity between the various different reptilian races is this. Most of them, now if you're handicapped and can still perform work and you're not a burden, they'll keep you around. However, most of the species, if they end up getting hurt to the point, like let's say you lose an arm and you cannot when your other arm is damaged too badly, they don't go, oh, let's try and rehab you. They go, oh, let's try you with a mustard paste. Okay, or the equivalent thereof. The people that die of old age or the people that die of accident are usually consumed. Ones that die of disease are tossed into essentially a fusion reactor. Okay, in other words, converted from edible or from dead, from waste, right into energy. You'll find this happens a lot on with the spacefaring races. Okay, and by the way, they've got a really neat idea. Okay, the neat part with most of the reptilian races, especially, other races can be a little different. But reptilian are real simple. This is the law. You broke it. Okay? Well, we don't have a lot of use for putting people in jail. So we're just going to kill you. That's it. Their death penalty is not a 6-year trial. It's, oh, there were people that saw you kill him. There was no reason to kill him except you wanted to. Therefore, you're dead. Yes, some innocents get killed in the crossfire. Absolutely. Okay, the hardest part of it all, what do we got here? The hardest part of it all for humans to understand is why reptilians are that way. While they happen to be carnivores, they happen to be predators. Even the Moldok, which, by the way, the Moldok are not reptilians, so I really shouldn't go there. Okay. But even they are very, very cut and dried. Now, reptilians make for very good friends. Certain ones. I would not necessarily recommend befriending Tormodon on the whole, because they'll tell you one thing and they will turn around and sell your butt to the highest bidder. Yeah, come with me. I'll back you up on this whole run. They'll turn on you like that, but they are true materialistic individuals. Okay, they will sell to the highest bidder. Now, when you take a look at that side of it, okay, not all reptilians, and you cannot effectively look at any species and go, they're this way inclined. Okay, there are always exceptions in every species. Okay, and the most difficult thing to keep in mind for most humans to realize is reptilians have this neat little thing. On the whole, they're pretty cut and dried. This is the way we are. Tormodon are the one primary exception. Okay, now the Naga are a nasty little race if you cross them. Okay, because they have no qualms. They prefer close combat, by the way, which means when they go to move, what they do is they'll drop their arms beside them and they'll move like a snake. Now, to put that in perspective, if you've ever seen an anaconda, that would be about the right girth. But the Naga are not 30 feet long. You know, there are a number of other races, and as I get things put together, like I said, effective tomorrow, we go into hyperdrive, getting books tied off. One of the best things I can say with reptilians is do not presume that, first of all, they're all related. There's only 4 that I know of that are related directly. There's somewhere close to a half a dozen that evolved on Earth and evolved trackably from dinosaurs. Okay, or before. If I recall correctly, there is a species that evolved from a turtle. Okay, I was looking at one the other day. Definitely not reptilian. Okay, they look almost like a bipedal elephant. There are a lot of different species out there, but the reptilians get a bum rap in a lot of ways. I don't know if I was allowed to say that. But reptilians, the reason everybody thinks they're infiltrating Earth, you know, and the hierarchy and the big corporations, is because of the movie V. Okay, you want to watch what I considered a really good show. It was a really good series. Or the movie itself. It came out in 1977, ran to 82. Okay. As you can well imagine, we are not talking about modern day cinematography. But the run on it was a good line. And we are looking at that. Now, we are hitting the end of the hour here. Now, that said, I want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with me tonight. You know, we really do appreciate it. You know, taking an hour out of your time, I really do appreciate. And I know my support crew, Storm, LA Moon, and Chad are usually in the room. Okay, these are the people that really help to hold things together. Okay. And, hats off to them. Absolutely. For you guys, thanks so much for sharing your time with us tonight. Keep an eye open. I will be bringing out more of the information ASAP. But tomorrow we're going to go a little different. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to go into, and I don't know what I'm calling it yet, but we're going to lay out the ground rules to avoid conflict, even though we've got the rooms here. That said, until tomorrow, do take care of each other and yourselves, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.